I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, joined by Congressmember Robert Garcia. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So I want to talk about where we are right now with the government funding appropriation bills, with Kevin McCarthy losing all control, seems to be the weakest Speaker of the House in American history. Here's what I know. The Senate voted 77-19 to advance a bipartisan short-term funding measure to avoid a government shutdown. But earlier in the day, Speaker Kevin McCarthy said that that is dead on arrival. And one of the reasons, apparently, is because the continuing resolution has funding for Ukraine, seems to be being driven by some of the radical extreme ideology of Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. So what's going on, Congressman?
Well, I think that's right. I think first, let's be clear. Kevin McCarthy is the weakest speaker, certainly in modern history, and has absolutely no control of his conference, his caucus. And he has early on, he already gave away the keys to leadership to folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. And so this is where we are. We are essentially at a crisis as it relates to funding our government, protecting millions. Over 2 million jobs across America are federal workers. And so it's a serious time. I think that what the Senate has done was the right approach. It's a bipartisan budget package. It's an opportunity for us to actually take an up or down vote. And the important thing is everyone agrees on what the Senate's doing. Senate Republicans agree, Senate Democrats agree, the White House and House Democrats. The only group here that is completely just insane and deranged on what they want are House Republicans and Kevin McCarthy's leadership. So they're completely just not in line with the American people. And it's not just the issue of Ukraine. It's not just the Ukraine aid which they oppose, which is, of course, crazy. It's also the fact that they want to reduce spending in almost every single department in the government. We're talking about eliminating healthcare, eliminating food programs for low-income folks, taking away benefits from veterans and those that serve in the military. So there's an extreme position that they have taken. And they should take up that Senate resolution, but they're not interested. And now we're going to, unfortunately, have this incredibly disruptive moment for so many people. And there's no one to blame but the MAGA Republicans and Kevin McCarthy.
You recently posted "Stop These MAGA Extremists," and I appreciate that members of Congress like yourself and other Democrats representing pro-democracy. In fact, there's even a small group of Republicans who are more moderate starting to say these people are a joke. This is a circus. This isn't conservatism. This is straight up crazy. Speaking of which, you have very unserious discussions from these MAGA Republican extremists just taking place. And it would be a parody if it wasn't so destructive and dangerous. Like, here's Lauren Boebert earlier in the day on the House floor, where she talks about how she was able to survive difficult circumstances based on government funding. But now she thinks that government funding should not be something that is available to help other Americans. Apparently, and the last time I checked, Congressman, she works for the federal government right now is how she gets paid. Here, play this clip.
The Biden-Harris administration expansion of the welfare state abolishes work ethic and promotes a new generation of government dependency. I've lived under government dependency, and I'm thankful that I have broke free of that cycle, given my life experiences and developing work ethic.
She's crazy. Look, I think that first, Lauren Boebert's got much larger problems right now and clearly has no public decency or respect for anyone. But the fact that she's, of course, reminding folks that she actually got assistance from the government, doesn't want anybody else to, just shows you how far extreme these MAGA Republicans right now are. And her buddies like Matt Gaetz and like Marjorie Taylor Greene essentially control the Republican caucus of today. And so Kevin McCarthy is doing whatever he can to stay onto power. And if he has to shut down the government, or if he has to try to impeach President Biden with no evidence, that's what he's going to do. And now he's starting to, quite frankly, just lie about his position on things. Let's not forget that we already negotiated this budget. The president and McCarthy negotiated where we would end up at this point in the last big budget conversation we had a few months ago. And so now to change, the narrative or change the demands is insulting.
You brought up Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is one of the leaders of the modern day MAGA Republican extremists, one of the people torpedoing the stability of our country. And again, here's the thing. I yearn for the days where there are just serious political parties having serious fact-based discussions. I'm open to disagreeing and to finding compromise. I want that. But here's what she said today. She goes on and paints this alternative world where it wasn't Donald Trump who released the 5,000 Taliban prisoners and invited the Taliban to Camp David, that somehow this was a President Biden thing that took place. Here, play this clip.
And President Trump would have never left the Afghan people in complete ruin and be controlled by a terrorist government, the Taliban. That is a complete excuse. Democrats need to stop blaming President Trump and his administration for Joe Biden's failures. I urge the House to adopt my amendment, Madam Chair, to take Secretary Lloyd Austin's salary using the Holman Rule, which is a rule that allows us to fire failures that are serving our government and serving our country. Lloyd Austin is not serving the United States military. Lloyd Austin is leading it into failure.
I mean, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? I mean, first of all, she has no idea what she's talking about. Clearly, she's just blatantly lying. I mean, Donald Trump actually cozied up, as we know, to terrorists. We also know that this entire farce that she's playing, everything is about Donald Trump. She is obsessed with her authoritarian favorite con man, president leader. That everything she does is about him. She's said it as much publicly. This whole entire impeachment inquiry is based essentially to help Donald Trump get reelected. She's told Kevin McCarthy that she's not going to support any budget process, and others have said the same thing unless she and her MAGA buddies launched this inquiry on President Biden when there's zero evidence he's done anything wrong. So she'll continue. This is all the Donald Trump show. I mean, everything that we're engaged in right now is because Donald Trump controls Kevin McCarthy and controls his caucus. And so that's what we got to fight back every single day here.
And that's what this is really all about, as you say. Donald Trump's given the directive to shut it down. He says, unless you do everything I say, which includes, defunding the Department of Justice and defunding the FBI and doing anything that Vladimir Putin wants. And Donald Trump gave that order. Donald Trump gave that directive. And I think where the MAGA Republicans, their plan, the Matt Gaetz, the Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Lauren Boebert, and Donald Trump making this order is that they've made the calculation that American suffering, make Americans suffer, destroy the economy, screw over the country, and then blame President Biden for it, and then utilize the propaganda machinery that's been built with Fox and all the right-wing media out there, rely on the fact that legacy media won't do its job and will say, is President Biden wearing basketball sneakers today during this? Maybe he should. They're going to rely on that. So how do the new Democratic messengers, that's the plan. So how do you fight back against it?
Now, I think what you said was absolutely right. First of all, this is all about Donald Trump. We got to be very honest about that. And I think, look, as a freshman coming in, we're very impatient about all of this, and we're very, I think, aggressive in our messaging because we know that what people want, certainly what the average American wants, just to get stuff done. And these folks, as you know, their lies, their constant bullshit, they're constantly trying to manipulate the truth, has to be called out every single time. And so I think it's really important for members of Congress at this moment to push back against every single lie and distortion at every single hearing, on the floor of the House, on TV, on your show, on places that can really get the message out. And so what's not going to work in this moment is trying to hold hands with the other side and hope everything gets better. I mean, that we're going to lose our democracy that way. I hope we get to a point, maybe 5-10 years from now, once we have vanquished Donald Trump the second time, that we can actually get back to bipartisanship and get back to actually a sane Washington, D.C., where people can actually work together on issues. But that isn't the moment right now. The moment right now is to fight as hard as we can to push back against every lie and to ensure, come hell or high water, that Donald Trump is not reelected president. Because that will be the end of what we know as the America today.
And I've seen your posts and statements to this effect, though, even despite all the horrific legacy media content out there and just the straight up disinformation being injected into the veins of people from right-wing media. You believe, from conversations in your district and speaking generally with the American people, that the people feel like they're being gaslighted. The people understand what's going on there, and the people recognize that this isn't a both sides issue, and the extremism and the radicalism is coming from Trump and these MAGA Republicans. And Democrats actually represent not only progressives and liberals, which I'm very proud of, but also just people who care about compassion and normalcy and decency, who may not identify as traditional progressives and liberals and may be conservatives, former Republicans, independents, et cetera. You and I have talked about that before.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I think this is going to continue. I think there's a growing sentiment amongst the public that, I mean, it's not as much about political ideology or left or right. It's about essentially a party that wants to preserve democracy, that wants, stable government, adult, responsible government, versus what's a party that is quickly becoming a party that wants to weaken democracy, weaken voting rights, and create some sort of authoritarian system where we're controlled by some monarch or person in power. In this case, of course, Donald Trump, that controls what we do, controls our body, controls our healthcare, empowers the very wealthy, and so that is what's happening right now. And there's a struggle in this country about the direction that we go in. And I hope that the American public understand that Donald Trump is the most dangerous person that we've ever elected, and that stopping his election and ensuring President Biden wins is the single most important thing that we can do right now. And everything the MAGA Republicans are doing in Congress is to try to help Donald Trump get reelected. And that's what's really a shame that we've got to push back on. And so I agree with that sentiment. And I think that the reason why we've been doing well in elections and why we're going to continue to do well is because more and more Americans are understanding that piece.
Congressman Garcia, thanks for joining us again on the MeidasTouch Network. Appreciate you as always.
Yep. Thanks so much.
And everybody, thank you for watching this interview with Congressman Garcia. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers, and check us out on audio podcast as well at the MeidasTouch podcast. Have a great day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.